Hi everyone, and welcome to a new time-lapse episode where I show you my entire process for making a shadow box. This box was a Pokemon-themed one, as you can see. And little disclaimer, I might not know all the English names of the Pokemon, because I've never played a Pokemon game in English, so if I have to name them, I'll do my best, but be indulgent with me if I suddenly can't remember it. But yeah, let's get started. So, I wanted to do specifically a ghost Pokemon themed box because ghost type is my favorite because that's where you get all the really insane out there designs where they're like, it's ghosts, we can do whatever we want. Here, have a teapot with a spirit in it. That's a Pokemon, why not? I love that. I love how creative ghost Pokemon can get. Um and I wanted to make a Pokemon based box, but I didn't like. While I do like Pokemon, I'm not the biggest fan. They're more like fun games that I play over the holidays rather than something I'm particularly knowledgeable in. So I wanted to just have fun and pick designs that um, I knew I would like chuckle to myself as I made them because look at that, Trevenant's there. I love Trevenant. He's just a massive angry tree. It's fun. I just had a lot of fun, like, picking as many ghosts as I possibly could and figuring out how to lay them out in this forest. This was also a good excuse for me to um, try different types of forests than I do usually. Have it more bushier, a bit more detailed. And I actually ran into an unexpected complication with this one. This was the first time, trust me, it won't be the last. But as I was doing the forest, and I was, again, this was one of the first times I was doing my layouts on the computer digitally, so I was having a very fun and easy time zooming in as much as I wanted and adding a whole bunch of details while incredibly zoomed in on my computer, but I didn't plan that when printing it out and in the smaller format of 2 layers per one A4 paper, the details were a lot smaller than they looked while I was zoomed in on my computer. So that was a fun little challenge for me. Holes that looked like completely reasonable to do suddenly became like tiny specks that I had to cut while not being careful not to cut an entire branch or something. I think it looked nice. I'm glad that I did it, but it was also, as I printed them and looked at the layers, I was like, oh, this is turning out to be a bit trickier than I was expecting. That's fine, haha. I like details. And to be fair, it was fine, but it did end up taking longer than I had planned. But this is something I like to do anyway. I like doing leaves. I like doing trees because when you have several layers of trees up against each other, it creates really interesting shadows. Like the leaves play off of each other, one layer to the next. So it really gives you the sensation that um, just because you're seeing one tree doesn't mean there's nothing behind it. So it gives you more depth that way than I guess more less detailed layers or less detailed subjects would make you feel. So it's always nice to play with shadows like that. And even then, I feel like I could go further. Like maybe there's a way to do 2 layers of trees per one foam layer, if that makes sense. It'll make more sense once you see me actually separate the layers later on, but I know there are different ways to do trees, and this is just one of the ones I like, but maybe I'll experiment more with different ways. Yeah, this is Ghastly, if I'm remembering the name right, and he was meant to be in front of a tree. You're gonna see me paste it here, yeah. There was the option of just cutting out his silhouette directly into the bark of the tree without making like a separate cutting for it. But I decided against it because when you do that, the danger is that you no longer really know what you're looking at when you're just looking at the layer. You might wonder, is that a weird part of the tree? Is that like a leaf that looks weird? And then you'd have to look really closely to be like, oh no, I guess that's a Pokemon. Whereas if you cut it separately and paste it, one, it's gonna look clearer, and two, because it's two layers of paper on top of each other, it's gonna make the Ghastly stand out a lot more, to make it its own unique shape. So that looked better for me. And yeah, get ready to see me cut little holes into little trees for a very long time. Because, like I said, I had no sense at all of perspective or scale, and had no idea like how many tiny holes you would see. Like, I think it was worth it, but this is going to be a lot of the video, just cutting small leaves, cutting small holes. That's when you're happy to listen to something interesting while you're cutting. I usually have like a YouTube video in the background or a podcast or something, just because when you're doing something like that that's like detail oriented but also a little repetitive, not that the holes are always the same, but it's the same kind of pattern that you're doing over and over again. It's sort of like it switches off your brain after a while. It's like you're letting your hands do all the work, whereas you go somewhere else. Which is actually one of the things I enjoy the most about paper cutting. It can be weirdly meditative at times, which feels really nice. It's also a small detail, but I really like my Mimikyu. I think it turned out great. I know it's just for all of these Pokemon, I just took their official, like, in-game illustrations, like the Pokédex image or something. So this is like the most official image you can find of Mimikyu, so it's not like there's no particular effort, but I also knew because it was small, there was a chance that I could mess up the expression. Because it's tiny, it's easy to sort of make a cut that's a bit too big, a bit too small, a bit too wobbly. And when you're doing that with an expression, you run the risk of completely changing the expression. And once you've cut it, there's no way to change it. So it was a bit, I had to be really careful. And I was really happy with how it turned out. It had like exactly the derpy, quirky, but also kind of eerie expression that Mimikyu makes. So I like small detail, but I was like stupidly happy with that one. I looked at it for a second, I was like, hey, Mimikyu. I like Mimikyu. I kept losing count of how many Pokemon I added into this, which is also something that I was going for. I wanted them to sort of get lost in the forest of, you know, their shape standing out just enough that you can see them, but if you look at the box in general without paying too much attention, they can fade into the leaves. And they can sort of disappear behind the trees. And I really wanted that. Because that's also the fun about Ghost Pokemon. It's like the lore behind them of, oh, they're spirits, they're disappearing, they might be right behind you. Or maybe they're haunting something and you don't even realize. So yeah, I wanted to add as many as I can, but I didn't want them to be too in your face. Except obviously the ones that are in the middle there. Like that one, whose name I forgot. But that one will really stand out because it's in the middle of the path, no trees behind it. Like the light will shine on it quite directly, so you won't miss it, but those two up there in the trees, you might not see them unless you're looking carefully. So that was the mix I was going for. I think in total I had something like 15, 16 Pokemon if you include Giratina in the background. Yeah, I might have. I told myself I'd count them before recording, but guess who forgot? So I guess you can count them when you see the final thing. Let me know if I was right. Was it 15? Was it 16? 17? I decided to make Giratina onto thinner paper than the rest, so the rest was 120 GSM, and I think I just used regular printer paper for this, so that would be 90 GSM. Because the idea was that he's this massive looming figure in the background, like he's the king of the ghost Pokemon. Side note, I could have picked a lot of legendary ghost Pokemon to go there. I went for Giratina because he has that kind of like biblical undertones to him, so I was like, that will be a nice looming figure to have. But yeah, I wanted him to stand behind, but not be on paper that was too thick, so that the shadow would be too dark. I wanted him to look more like an apparition, like seen less clearly, but still so big that it looks like it's looming over everything else. And if I had it on thicker paper, the shadow would have been too dark compared to the feel I was trying to go for. And this is me painting the frame, making the frame. Alright, so this is what I was talking about. This is the layers of foam that I used to separate all of the layers to give it more depth. So like I said, there would be a way to say use 2 layers of paper, but separate them with only one piece of foam. So like you're sticking 2 layers and then stick some foam on top of it, so it gives more detail to the layer without separating it too much and making them like 2 distinctly separate objects. So that's something else to try in the future. Like, I am not done with my exploration of trees. But there you go, so there's the final box. I'm very happy with this one turned out. This was one that, like, I started the layout not really knowing exactly what I wanted. I just knew I wanted a whole bunch of Pokemon in a forest. And I went little by little and experimented with which Pokemon to place where and like moving stuff around. And I really like how it turned out. I like how some of them blend with the leaves. I like how some of them really stand out and others don't. And yeah, like I said, small detail, but I love my Mimikyu. He looks so fun. So yeah, I had a ton of fun with this one, and I hope you enjoy it. So if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed watching this whole process, let me know in the comments, give it a like. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, give me a subscribe. And if you'd like to see the whole process for this box, but less sped up, with no commentary and just like little snippets of every part that's involved in making this, then go ahead and click to my other Pokemon video that is called Step by Step, I believe, where you can see a slowed down version of this, shorter and with music. This box was already sold, but you can go ahead and check out my Etsy store if you would like to see what I've got on sale currently, and feel free to get in touch if you'd like your own custom box. And thank you very much for watching, and see you next time!